The quest for civil rights has been a long uphill battle in America. The United States wouldn't see a Civil Rights Act until 1964, following many movements seeking to highlight the unjust treatment of African Americans. One spark that gained national attention was a wave of sit-ins taking place in the 1960s, but years earlier, in 1945, the return of military veterans in Colorado Springs spurred an early wave of sit-ins.
You have heroes, military veterans returning from World War II who've served our country, put their lives on the line, and they come back home and they can't eat in a restaurant.
Colorado Springs was a community that discriminated on the bounds of de facto segregation. Colorado was unique because the state enacted a Civil Rights Act in 1935 that legally protected African Americans from discrimination in any public place. When this wasn't upheld for military veterans and members of the community following World War II, local African American leaders took action.
So Charles Banks, who was the leader of the local NAACP, actually put together a coterie of young people, some of whom he was related to, his daughter, his grandson, some CC students, and they went into places like Walgreens and local bars and restaurants, and they sat at the counter, and when they were kicked out, they filed lawsuits because unlike Jim Crow South, there was a Civil Rights Act in Colorado that was put in place in 1935. It barred discrimination based on race in public accommodations, public restaurants, etc. So we actually had a law in place, yet business owners were still discriminating. And in Colorado Springs, that was especially, that was acute, right? We were the home of thousands of soldiers who'd served, and they're stationed at Fort Carson, and they come downtown and they were refused service. That kind of painful recognition of the fact that we would discriminate against members of the military in our town and in other communities, we faced that challenge here in the 1940s. And Charles Banks, by the way, was successful. He sued these organizations, these businesses, and he won anywhere from $50 to $500, and they were forced to serve all customers. Pretty remarkable. In the 1940s, sit-ins were taking place in Colorado Springs.